Hey everybody, from Beantown to your town, this is the Beantown Beatdown. Yep, I'm Matthew Burris.
Case Thomas here, also from Beantown.
Yep, and we're taping the show on Thursday, taking a few Saturdays off, and we'll film during the week. And just subscribe to our show, and you'll find out when our new episode is on.
Sweet, yeah.
Exactly. And right now, got me some Bud Light Margarita Lemonade Rita. This is a new flavor. Actually, this is a new flavor. I had some. I had some last week, and it's pretty good. I had some during March Madness, college basketball, and
Sweet.
Yes, it is.
All right, cheers to that.
All right, let's get into some headlines.
Yep.
Well, first and foremost, Ronda Rousey's been making the rounds lately on television.
Sweet.
Yeah, she was on The View on Monday, and it was announced on Monday on The View that she's going to be fighting Betcha Correia in Brazil.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Betcha Correia is from Brazil. She's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu master, and she's actually beaten a few of Ronda's friends, and she's called Ronda out. So Ronda is definitely game for that. She's ready to break another bitch's arm. Exactly.
And Brazil's like the big time, isn't it?
Oh yeah, Brazil. Oh yeah, I mean Ronda is definitely going into enemy territory here. She is literally going into there, and she was also on Jimmy Fallon as well. She was on Jimmy Fallon a couple of nights ago, and then
isn't it not just enemy territory, but also like the sort of big time? Like if you can make it there, you'll make it anywhere.
Well, sort of. I mean, for the Brazilians, for the local Brazilian fighters, they want to come over to America and fight in the UFC.
Right,
but
not them, but for us.
Well, for us, yeah, because that's where MMA started.
Right.
And there's a lot of MMA fighters over there. There's a lot of boxers and kickboxers there. There's some jiu-jitsu guys, and so it's gonna be real tough for Ronda.
Yeah.
Like that. Exactly. And she was also yesterday. She was also on ESPN's First Take with Skip Bayless and Stephen A. Smith, and surprisingly, she picked Manny Pacquiao to beat Mayweather.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because anyone who's ever been a guest on the show, they've been voting for Mayweather, and so far she's like the first and only person to pick Pacquiao to win. Yeah, so it's going to be interesting. But plus, I noticed Ronda's got a little bit of a booty. She was looking a little curvaceous. I saw her on The View. I was like, ooh, girl, you got a little bit of an ass going on with you. Damn! Oh yeah.
I feel once you get into the fighting, you get more toned and lean. That's how it goes,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
If I was straight, I would definitely be into those toned and lean fighter women.
Oh yes, yes. And that fight with Betcha Correia is going down August 1st in Brazil on pay-per-view. I'll give you more details as I learn more about the fight. Also, in boxing, last week I saw Yoshihiro Kamagai take on Alfonso Gomez on Golden Boy Live. A good 10-round fight. And it was a good brawl, man. It was another. Yeah, it was one of those fights where two guys are just going at it and getting up in each other's face and just like brawling. And Kamagai really tried to wear him down, and of course it didn't really happen. I mean, in the early rounds he was good. In the middle rounds went to Gomez. In the late rounds, went to Kamagai. So. But Gomez won by a unanimous decision, and for those of you who don't know, Yoshihiro Kamagai, he was the one who fought Robert the Ghost Guerrero in last year's Fight of the Year. It was voted Fight of the Year last year.
Fight of the Year.
Well, yeah, that was an epic brawl on Showtime they had, and it was amazing. And Kamagai is a good representative for boxing in Japan. You don't hear a whole lot of there's not a whole lot of Asian fighters except for the exception of like Manny Pacquiao from the Philippines. But there are some boxers from Asia. It's just that they haven't been given a shot, and of course, when we think of Japan,
thinking about that, I was like, I'm sure there are a bunch, but do we talk about them?
There is. It's just a matter of getting your shot and stuff.
Right.
And
Right.
in this fight, Kamigai he lost, and of course there's Taejan, the fighter from China, who's a heavyweight, and so the Asians are things are looking up for the Asians in boxing, but for Kamigai, he's got to start winning some fights. I mean, you can't just be another crowd pleaser who just loses and wins and stuff like that. He's got to get on a winning streak if he wants to be taken seriously as a contender for a world title.
Gotcha.
Exactly. And also, going back to the UFC and more headlines, for those of you who are fans of Brock Lesnar who want Brock Lesnar to come back to the UFC after WrestleMania, well, I got some sad news. He signed an extension contract with WWE. So Brock and Brock says he's not going back to the UFC, which is kind of a shame.
Yeah.
And and of course Brock. That's a shame for me too, because I wanted to see Brock Lesnar take on Frank Mir one more time. I mean, the first fight, Brock and Frank fought in the UFC, and Frank was Brock's first match in the UFC, and Frank Mir beat him with a knee bar. Second fight, Brock Lesnar, made Frank Mir's face look like raw hamburger meat. Yeah, he totally fucked him up. And after the fight, he did that. He got in Frank Mir's face and was like, "Talk all the shit you want now, motherfucker." And then of course he did that speech where he went, "Well, first of all, I'm gonna drink a Coors Light." And he looked right at the Bud Light logo in the middle of the octagon and he went, "That's a Coors Light because Bud Light won't pay me anything." And he says, "And then I'm gonna go home and I'm gonna get on top of my wife."
Oh man!
Of course,
there we go.
Yeah, he apologized
to the full range of the disses you can lay out: the beer, the women.
Yeah. And of course, later he apologized to Bud Light and for what he said about Coors Light. But Brock, of course, Brock is going to be at WrestleMania. He's defending the title against Roman Reigns, who is the nephew of The Rock.
Oh, The Rock.
Oh yes. Yep. The Samoan wrestling family is still alive and strong.
Alive and kicking, literally.
Yep, it is.
I wonder what they must think. Like they got around him being a fighter, right? Like when he went off to first become famous, they got around him as a fighter. So I wonder what they think now that he's an actor.
Who, The Rock?
Yeah.
Well, I think the WWE fans still appreciate The Rock, because he is another one of those wrestlers that transcended the pop culture along with the Macho Man Randy Savage, Hulk Hogan, Jesse Ventura.
Yeah, exactly.
Not
to say you need those guys to bring in other viewers you might not have had.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that.
And it's again. I wish Brock would be fighting in the UFC again, but apparently that's not on the cards. But you guys can still check out WrestleMania. I think WrestleMania is this Sunday, so go check it out on pay-per-view, or if you have the WWE Network, you can check it out for only $9.99. Yeah. Now we're gonna get into why don't we do your rant?
Rant of the day. Okay. Yeah. Sure. So I've been thinking. Speaking of pop culture and stuff like that, I've been thinking about where is the fight world going? How will this whole thing be? And we like to think of the very distant future nowadays. So how will this whole thing be in the distant future? And we obviously don't have much to try and tell us that, but we do have some things, which is science fiction. And I actually think science fiction is based on, obviously we don't know where we're actually going, but I think science fiction is based on our best guess of where we're going. And if you've watched me before, you know that I love to bring up Star Trek. So is he going to stop bringing up Star Trek? No, not this time. Because, again, Star Trek is part of this. you know, there's on Voyager. There's a few different episodes where if it's not professional fighting, it's like the sort of underground idea of violence. And I brought up an episode a few weeks ago about this when they found out this culture was that had banned like violent thoughts, was actually having this whole black market of violent thoughts and desires and things. And that's only an idea like that is only possible in a science fiction show. That you would extract someone's violent thought and try and sell it on the black market. But that's exactly what happens, and it's because they tried to say, we can't have this anymore. We can't have any thoughts of violence because look what happens to people, And I know that's the same argument a lot of people use about violent entertainment now, and I think especially with like sports stuff, it's real life in a way. You can see more of the consequences. So I think it's actually really important to fight violence and stuff like that in entertainment. So, and in the future, there's in Star Trek, there's this planet that actually makes it their main export. Their main attraction is the fighting, and they actually kidnap some of the Voyager crew, and that's not a good way to do it. But if you see the scenes of them, in the audience of the Rick, it's like huge and ginormous, and all these different species, cheering each other on, and of course, to be a good fighter, you have to be more and more unique. You know what I mean? You have to be more and more like whatever. So some of these species, these fighters, use their advantage as a different species as well, or something like that. If you can be super fast against your opponent, that's a benefit. If you can elongate yourself and be taller than your opponent, that could be a benefit. All that type of stuff. So I think it will continue that way into the future. The question is, how our attitudes about it will change. Whether we think it will actually have as big an audience into the distant future. I think there's always a want for that, and there's always a need for that. There's another series, actually, The Hunger Games.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Lawrence.
Here we go. Yeah. And I think it's fantastic that she was in the movie, because it's like that brings so much more oomph to it as well. Like, it should have a bunch of oomph, this story, because that's what it's about. It's about, it's the bad side of the coin, basically. Trying to bring people together to actually fight to the death for each other's amusement and to distract from social issues of the time. So I think that's possible. There's a potential for that if we don't wake up, wake the hell up to what this is actually doing to us. But of course, it's exciting. That's one of my favorite movie series now.
Yeah. And fighting in the future, who knows? For all we know, we could replace humans with robots fighting.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Just like in
what's that movie?
Yeah, the one with Wolverine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the robots, or like in that
True Steel.
Yeah, True Steel.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or like in that music video by Deadmau5 where they had Mike Goldberg from the UFC in it, and it was like it was the UFC, but it was like the octagon looked more like the Battle Dome from Mad Max, and the robots were fighting each other.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you never know what's gonna happen.
That would be a way for it to be like similar adrenaline rush. I'm sure some of you would disagree, but maybe similar adrenaline rush and safer, and you can also tear the shit out of each other's robots.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, it's 2015, and we are very technologically based. We are technologically advanced. Mm-hmm. But like the stuff like we saw in the sci-fi movies still haven't really come true yet. And we actually talked about this one time. This was off camera.
Oh, yeah.
But we talked about the movie The Running and I actually saw that a few nights ago, and and it said like in the year 2019, that's when the Running Man takes place. But I'm like, okay, it's 2015, almost 2016. Where's my Running Man?
Yeah, exactly. That's the problem with all these movies that we look back and they're like, they say these dates, which to them are a long time from now, but like, for us, it's like that's just around the corner, and we're not even close to this type of stuff.
Oh yeah, and of course, that fight scene with Schwarzenegger and Ventura, that was great. Of course it was computer animated because, like, I don't know if you remember, but like they wanted Ventura to come out of retirement and they wanted him to wear this, this outfit and stuff, and he goes like, "I'm not doing it," and he goes like, "I didn't need all this crap. I was killing guys out like this years ago. This is a sport, damn it, and this is an insult to the gladiators."
There you go.
Yeah, but I'm sure fighting will still be around. There will still be a place for combat sports. I mean,
even if it's on like a distant planet, or even if it's its own like special arena with Hunger Games again. You got the beasts and shit. You got the beasts
or like
genetically modified. And
like or like Tekken, the video game Tekken, and also the live action movie version of Tekken.
Is there one?
Oh yeah, there is one, and like a big tournament, and like there's like it's broadcast all over the world and stuff. And, but there'll still be combat sports, and I'd love for it to still be combat sports, because again, it goes back to the gladiators, man. Oh yeah. I mean, granted, most of them were slaves.
Yeah, I was about to say, there's two different sides to that. There's the pride and glory of the gladiators, which I get into. There's like these people were slaves. They were there to get killed and to be fed to the lions if they're Christian and all that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. But but it's still going to be around, and it's like Dana White said, fighting is in our DNA as human beings. Yeah, exactly. It doesn't matter if you're black, white, gay, straight, male, female. Fighting's in your DNA.
I believe that.
Exactly. And now we're going to get into the blast from the past. And the blast from the past, it's been 25 years. Wait, 1990, 2015. How many years is that?
That's 15 years. 25 years.
Oh, 25 years.
Yes.
But 25 years, 25-year anniversary that Julio Cesar Chavez beat Meldrick Taylor in what was called the 1990 Fight of the Year. And this fight happened a month after James Buster Douglas knocked out Mike Tyson. And, it was like really the start of the 90s, that big upset because nobody thought Mike Tyson was going to get beat. They thought, Tyson was going to be the champion of the 90s, just like he dominated, the mid 80s and late 80s. And here we are in 1990, and this is a fight here, and it took place at the Hilton in Las Vegas, Nevada. Meldrick Taylor, a member of the 1984 Olympics, along with Pernell Whitaker, Evander Holyfield, and terrible Terry Norris. And
some of the greats there, yeah.
Oh yeah, one of the best Olympic boxing teams, along with the '88 team, and of course the '76 team with Leonard and the Spinks brothers and Howard Davis Jr. And Meldrick Taylor was the junior. Yeah, Meldrick Taylor was the junior welterweight champion. They were both junior welterweight champions. Taylor was the IBF and Chavez was WBC. And, this was an interesting clash. In fact, the name of the fight was called Thunder and Lightning.
Thunder and Lightning.
Yeah, because Chavez was thunder, he had hard punches, and Meldrick Taylor was like lightning, he had fast hand speed, he could move, and he was actually being dubbed at one point the next Sugar Ray Leonard. Yeah.
But yeah, it's really something how they use those like geological things to talk about it. Thunder is a force of nature, lightning is a force of nature. And they're very opposite. And like you said, he's fast, and thunder is like boom, thunder.
Oh yeah, yeah, exactly. And this is a fight I've seen many times, not only on YouTube but I've seen like highlights of this fight, and I can never get enough of this fight. Because, like, in the early rounds, Taylor was really giving Chavez, a boxing lesson. He was fast, he was moving, and all that. But then later on in the fight, Taylor was wearing down, because the thing about Chavez was in the mid to the late rounds, that was Chavez's time. He would hit you with shots that would just wear you down. I mean, he did that with Roger Mayweather in their rematch, and Chavez was really digging to him in the body, and he was really putting damage on Taylor's face as well. I mean, later on in the fight, you see Taylor's eyes; he's got black eyes and stuff. He's bleeding from his lip and his nose, and you look at this guy, I mean, he looked like his face looked like he had been trying to make out with a bullet train. Yeah. And
gotta use that one.
Oh yeah. And so then in the 12th round, it was going into the 12th round, and it was like, okay, if Taylor stays on his feet, then he wins. And then it's getting down to the wire, and all of a sudden Chavez lands right hand, bam! Taylor goes down, and Taylor, he gets up. I think he got up at like the count of 6. And, Richard Steele, the referee, was counting 6, 7, 8. And Richard Steele was asking him, is he all right? Is he all right? And then Luke Duva was standing up and was, like, distracting Taylor. And Richard Steele thought, he looked a little dazed, a little confused, because he looked at all the damage that Taylor had taken. And Richard Steele just waved it off. There was, like, 5 more seconds left in the fight. And he just waved it off. He just went, no more, done. And it was really controversial too, because they felt like there was a few more seconds left. Couldn't let it go on, and it really was controversy at the time, because it's like because people thought like you robbed this young fighter, undefeated, and you just robbed him of his chance of being a real great champion by defeating Julio Cesar Chavez, who was like undefeated at the time. He had like 74 wins. But when you hear about the reports later on, like after the fight, you realize, in hindsight, it was like, it was a good idea that they stopped that fight. Because one, when he got up, he used the ropes to get up. That's always a clear sign that, he's a little hurt by that.
Right. I mean, so if you can't pull yourself up, that's one thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. And also because like he had broken facial tissues. He had black eyes. He was bleeding from his lip and from his nose, and also he had suffered such kidney damage. There was blood in his urine.
Oh.
Well, yeah, because that's what happens. That's what happens. When you take a certain amount of body punches, your kidneys start bleeding. Yeah, and that's what happens. And Chavez, of course, won the fight, and it, added on to his legacy as as the greatest Mexican fighter ever. And these two would fight 4 years later, in 1994, and Chavez would win with a TKO. It was a one-sided fight. And of course, by that time, Meldrick Taylor was really on the downside. And this is one of these. There's a saying in combat sports. There's a fight where something is like you fight that fight and like you're never the same fighter ever again. It's happened a lot, especially in boxing, like the Ali Frazier Thriller Manila fight. After that fight, Muhammad Ali was never the same again. I mean, yeah, he won, but that was sort of the beginning of the end. With the damage that he took and stuff. And the same thing happened with Tyson. After of course, there was the doubles fight, but then after the doubles fight, he was, he still kept winning and stuff. But it was after the first Holyfield fight that was really the beginning of the end for Mike Tyson. And this fight, this was the beginning of the end for Meldrick Taylor. I mean, he would continue on to fight, and he would, he'd win some titles later, but then later on he would start losing. And then after the second Chavez fight, he was really never the same again, and actually continued on fighting until 2002, and he was like punch drunk. He was slurring his words. He had really suffered some real brain damage.
Man, yeah.
Oh yeah, and it's kind of a shame too, because we also talked about Meldrick Taylor as one of the unsung heroes of boxing. That one episode.
Yeah.
And Meldrick Taylor was really a gifted boxer. He was from Philadelphia.
Philly pride.
Oh yeah.
Now I've been there a few times.
Joe Frazier. Yeah. And Meldrick Taylor is like considered one of the best boxers coming out of Philly. There's Joe Frazier, there's Meldrick Taylor,
right?
Bernard Hopkins, and of course Danny Garcia right now, who's the current champion. And and it was a shame for Meldrick Taylor, because this was going to be like a make or break fight for him.
Right.
Being a legend like Julio Cesar Chavez, but that was the thing about Chavez. Chavez, he was he's just one of those boxers where he would wear you. His punches would wear you down. He wasn't like a one punch knockout kind of guy like Tyson. He would just wear you down with body punches, and it would internally do damage to you. I mean, it did damage to Roger Mayweather in their second fight. Mayweather, he had hurt his ribs and stuff, and eventually stopped the fight. But that was Julio Cesar Chavez. He was still to this day one, the best Mexican fighter ever. And it's a great fight. It's a great fight to look up if you ever get the chance and stuff. And and I think Chavez. When I look at the Chavez and Taylor fight, I think that's what would have happened if Chavez had fought Mayweather in his prime, Floyd Mayweather in his prime. I mean, I love Floyd Mayweather. I'm a big Floyd Mayweather fan. But if that would have, the same thing that happened to Taylor would have happened to Mayweather in that fight. Eventually Chavez would have caught up to Floyd, and then in the late rounds, Floyd would have gotten knocked the fuck out. Sorry.
Fascinating, yeah.
Yeah, but I know you haven't seen the fight, but like when you think of when you think of fights like that where like fighters are like getting damaged and stuff like that, when you take that that toll on you, what do you think?
Right. Well, obviously I have my opinion about the occupational hazard of fighting, which I always say. I don't like that we sort of ask these guys to do these things. I don't know. If when it comes to regular sports, that's a whole other thing, and I understand the emotions about that. And that's a very different. It's a very different argument whether or not the injuries of other sports like football. But I think here we really do expect them to like go at each other, or whatever, and we really do expect the most brute force possible, or the stealthiest and the most lightning, whatever it is. But like we really do expect brute force and a lot, and for someone to be knocked the fuck out, as you keep saying. So we I know that's part of the sport, and that's what makes it really exciting. And I think I told you at one point on one of these videos that I think it's more fair too. It's more realistic to actually grapple it out until someone goes down. That's more realistic than other sports. But I don't know. I don't like that we're sort of putting them in this situation where unless eventually they're going to have all this damage. I keep listening to you talking about all these statistics of the damage they have, and unless they dropped out early, it sounds like they end with a lot of physical damage to deal with in their life.
Well, yeah, because nowadays, like there's we now know the full extent of damage, with brain damage, not only just with combat sports, but with with football. There was a player on the 49ers that recently just retired. He was a rookie, and he said he'd been playing football from Pee Wee, to high school and college, and after 1 year of playing in the pros, and he realizes that hey, I don't want to keep taking damage, and I'm gonna retire. And I don't know.
And that's my 49ers. I mean, in a way, you sort of have the team pride and stuff, and you're like, we lost a good one. Why the hell?
Yeah.
And yet he's making a very good point.
Yeah, but don't worry, you guys still got Copperneck.
We do.
Copperneck. So don't worry, you guys. You guys might make it to the Super Bowl. Granted, you have the Cowboys to think about. Hey, the Cowboys next year are looking like a good team. You never know.
Never know.
Yeah, but also and the thing about it is about that fight is Richard Steele. He's been somewhat of a controversial referee. There was this fight that the fight with Chavez and Taylor, and then of course there was the first fight between Tyson and Ruddock, where Mike Tyson was throwing some punches at Razor Ruddock, and they said Richard Steele stopped the fight afterwards, and that led to controversy as well. And they said there was a rumor that he was friends with Don King. Of course, Richard Steele denies that, and he says that, and they say in the fights with Tyson, he always favored Mike Tyson, but. I think Richard Steele is a great referee in my opinion, along with Mills Lane. But yeah, and of course Julio Cesar Chavez was being managed by Don King at that time.
Okay.
Yeah, so Chavez was with Don King, and then he got with he left because of what else do you think? Money issues. And then, of course, went to Bob Arum, who was another scumbag. But it was still a good fight, and really worth looking up. It was in 1995 year. Still can't believe it. Actually beat out Douglas and Tyson, which was the biggest upset in the world.
Oh, really, man.
Oh yeah, exactly. And because in Mike Tyson back in the day, he was a tough act to follow. Just like Muhammad Ali was a tough act to follow in the 70s, and then of course came Sugar Ray Leonard. Then Leonard started becoming a tough act to follow, and then came the Hagglers, the Hearns, the Durans, and Tyson. And then of course we got Holyfield, Lewis, and Chavez, and all the other fighters, and eventually Oscar De La Hoya too. So, but it's a good fight. The most controversial yet best fight of the 90s. Go on YouTube, look that fight up. You won't be disappointed. Exactly. So now I'm going to get into my rant of the day. And my rant is on the sport of kickboxing. And, at my house I have videotapes of I got blank tapes of kickboxing. I have the best of glory, 1 through 4. And I have the best of kickboxing video there where I taped everything kickboxing, especially the movie Kickboxer with Jean-Claude Van Damme, which by the way is being remade.
Is it?
Oh yeah, it's being remade. I don't know when it's going to be released, but I know that Van Damme is going to be in it. He's not going to be playing the same role he played in the first movie.
You're right. Yeah.
But kickboxing, and I've had this conversation with many people, especially my friend Kenny Benesh. Hey Kenny, what's up? He subscribed to the channel. But kickboxing here in America, it's it's starting to grow a little bit. It's starting to grow in popularity thanks to Glory Kickboxing. Kickboxing overseas is huge. It's big over in Europe, it's big in Asia, it's big in Canada and Brazil, but like here in America, it's still kind of in that thing where it's like, I mean, there are some fight fans that are into it, but it's mostly fight fans who've watched, who are fans of the UFC and know that kickboxing is part of mixed martial arts, or people who have studied karate and stuff. And kickboxing, and I think
I was about to say I took a class in it too, so
Oh yeah, I know.
And in terms of classes and stuff, I think it's a lot more prevalent.
And when you took classes, like, did you wear like the shorts like the fighters wear now, like those little kickboxing shorts, or did you have to wear like the long sleeve, the long sweatpants? Or...
Right. Yeah, I think we did it the long sweatpants way.
Oh yeah. Because the late '80s and early '90s, that's how kickboxing was perceived. You know, the PKAs and WCKs, WKs, or whatever. The Dennis Alexios, the Don Dragon Wilsons, and Peter Sugarfoot Cunningham, and Benny the Jet Urquidez. Those were great fighters out of kickboxing. But kickboxing back then was like a bad taste in America's mouth, because it was like you had limited kicks, and you could throw a certain amount of kicks per round, and your boxing was bad. But now, thanks to K1 and thanks to Glory, it's like the boxing is much better, the kicking is much better. There are much exciting fights, especially over there in Thailand where kickboxing was born. Muay Thai. And
I'd say, I'm sure the Thai did it very badass.
Oh yeah, most definitely. And kickboxing here in America, it's like it's the soccer of combat sports. Soccer, soccer is big everywhere else, but here in America, soccer. It's like we know Cristiano Ronaldo, we know Pele, we know Hope Solo, Mia Hamm, and David Beckham.
Yeah.
But of course, for the ladies, they only like David Beckham because he takes his shirt off.
Some of us like that too.
Oh yeah, you guys too. Yeah, but in America, we only care about soccer if it's the World Cup or if it's the Olympics, because that's our country.
That's our thing, right? Exactly, I was glad to see it. I was glad to see that there actually was some significantly rising ratings from the World Cup this year, and even the president tried to come and do the whole "I believe we can win" chant and all that, which is funny. In America, I think that shows our relationship to soccer. Actually, that the chant is "I believe that we can win." And it's the only sport we would do. We would say that as Americans because we're usually so arrogant. But soccer is not quite our thing yet, so I believe that we can win.
Yeah, exactly. And kickboxing. Personally, I love kickboxing because, I grew up, striking martial arts and stuff like karate and taekwondo and stuff. But also because it was the movie Kickboxer with Jean-Claude Van Damme. That was actually the first Jean-Claude Van Damme movie I ever watched as a kid.
Really?
Yeah, and ever since then, I've loved that guy, and I think he's like in his early 50s. He's still a bad motherfucker.
Right.
So children, respect your elders. Respect your elders.
Because one of them might be Van Damme.
Yeah,
and then you don't even want to know what happens.
Yeah. He can still do that thing, where he does that pose where, he does, that kick in the air and he puts his leg up high up to the air. He can still do that. Damn. Yeah. But kickboxing, it is starting to grow here in America, with the, with Glory, it's, K1, it was starting to get popular again with K1, the K1 Grand Prix tournaments in Japan, and they would show those fights on ESPN and stuff. Back in the day when you said K1 Grand Prix, it was like everybody had to watch it. But of course, since then, because of all the, involvement with the with the Yakuza and not paying fighters and stuff, it's like K1 is now literally hanging on by a shoestring. But Glory really had, picked up the ball and ran with it.
Right.
I mean, so now kickboxing is starting to become huge in America, and it's part of the Friday Night Lights Out on Spike TV, along with Premier Boxing Champions, and of course with Bellator MMA. And and now we got some big stars out of it too. Like Andy Risty, Rico Balboa, Verhoeven, Simon Marcus, Wayne Barrett, and of course Buakaw from K1 as well, and one of the best, if not the best, kickboxer out of Thailand. What do you think about kickboxing here in America?
Right. Well, I'm glad that it's catching on for sure. Like I said, I took that class. I took that in Aikido. So if they had been offering just regular boxing, no offense to the boxing fans, I don't think I would have taken it. So I think there is something awesome, more awesome that they're adding. The whole kicking element, and I think that's and those of you that like MMA, I think are sure kind of because of that, because there's more to it than the traditional ring and boxing with fists. I don't know. I like that, and I like if there was any sport I played as a kid, it was soccer. So I like the kicking and the running and stuff. So I think it's really good to have kickboxing here in the U.S. and I want to go back to it. I really do. I want to get good at it, because like the round kicks and stuff, that's the shit you love in the movies, and you can actually do that shit on kickboxing. I like it a lot, and I think I've said it in this podcast before that I actually it was a non-contact class, and I got accidentally punched in the face, but it was good. That sort of opened up my eyes to what it's like. I was in real fights in middle school, but it's like it sort of opens up your eyes more of what it's like to be in a fight and defend yourself. And I was so much less afraid ever since then. So I'm glad for it.
So like you never had one of those classes where you guys like try to where one tried to blast you and you like, oh okay motherfucker, you want to go? Let's go. Right. You were never like that.
I know. I definitely wanted to be like that. As I'm sure as a kid I did. Actually, yeah, I do remember as a kid there was this punk that was messing with me, and it was I think this was Aikido or some other type of martial art class long back in the day. I barely remembered it, but like I do remember this kid was like getting in my face and shit, and I didn't know much. I didn't know what to do, but there was one point where he had me pinned, and one of the moves was to try and was like as you're being pushed down, push them away with your legs. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah, the side kick.
Side kick. Mm-hmm. And so I remember he was literally pushing me down, and he literally almost had me on the floor. But I did. If I didn't do a full side kick with one leg, I adapted it to both legs, and I just did a whoosh, and I like literally hauled him off of me. I actually remember now that he went flying like 5 feet, and I was like, yeah. I couldn't even say it at the time, but I would have been like, yeah, motherfucker, that's what you get.
Oh yeah, exactly. And but yeah, I mean that's good for kickboxing. In fact, I mentioned before. I have mentioned this before. Like Joe Rogan was a kickboxer too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he did Taekwondo, and he did some. He studied kickboxing under Benny the Jet Yakitas. When he moved out to LA and wanted to do some comedy, and he had some kickboxing fights, and and the thing with kickboxing, especially with Glory, it's really gonna become major huge. I mean, Glory's got a fight in Dubai coming up in April. I'm gonna have the full card for you as it goes along, and then they got a fight in April. It's going to be in June with in San Diego, California, and our team Levin, the middleweight champion, he's going to fight the winner of the middleweight contender tournament in Dubai. most definitely. And but I mean, kickboxing. I've always been a kickboxing fan. Yeah, Gabe's keeping it.
I'm keeping track of the time.
Yeah, because he's got to call his sister and stuff. Actually, it's like 1:42, so it's.
We're good.
Yeah, we're good. We're good on time. Maybe we'll stop at around 1:50, 1:55, maybe.
Well, maybe let's just wrap this up.
Okay. Yeah, but yeah, kickboxing really has come a long way from those. From the days in the 80s and the 90s, and especially from the movie with Van Damme, Kickboxer, and then the sequels with Shasha Mitchell and stuff. Mm-hmm. But I'm a huge kickboxing fan, and Glory, they just keep delivering on fights and stuff. Giving crowds what they want, because combat sports fans, they love to see knockouts. I mean, boxing is great. I mean. But of course, I'm from the era of Tyson and all those guys when, motherfuckers were getting knocked out.
Yeah.
And in boxing, there's not much knockouts. Not that I don't appreciate a Pacquiao or a Mayweather, but, I love to see fights finished. Mm-hmm. I want to see fighters finishing each other. And kickboxing and mixed martial arts, it gives fans what they want to see. Knockdown, drag out fights, and possible knockouts. Mm-hmm. Exactly, but
I think I said it like the other week. That it was like on the street or on the playground when you're fighting, there's no certain amount of time that it's gonna last, and there's no like, oh, you can't use your legs. There's none of that. You do what you do. If you can get your knee in them, you get your knee in the bitch. If you punch, if you kick, like all that stuff, like it all happens. You know what I mean? So why not? Yeah. Why not make it more like that? More like the street, the playground, whatever.
Yeah. And we were talking about Thailand, and one thing that most people don't know about Thailand, that in kickboxing, it doesn't matter much as if you're a world champion. I mean, belts don't really mean anything in Thailand. What matters is if you're a stadium champion. And there's two stadiums. There's Lumpini Stadium, and then there's Regiment Stadium. And Lumpini Stadium is the more famous one. It's like the Madison Square Garden of kickboxing there. If you're a stadium champion, then that's your house. It's like you're the man. It's like imagine if that happened like over here in the States, like when Tyson was fighting in MGM Grand, or or like back in the 80s when he was fighting at Trump Plaza for Donald Trump. He'd be like the Trump Plaza champion.
Totally.
Oh yeah, WMC belts, WBC belts, K1 titles, and glory belts. Like that don't mean shit in Thailand. In Thailand, what matters is if you're a stadium champion. If you're a stadium champion, then you are the man. Yeah, and Buakau's been a stadium champion too. I forget which stadium, but if you go over there and fight in Thailand, if you become a stadium champion, that's great. Especially, that happened with Ramon Dekkers too. Yeah, he was a foreigner. He was from the Dutch Netherlands, and he became a stadium champion and is one of the greatest kickboxers in the world. He was one of the greatest kickboxers in the world, and of course, Of course, the major places kickboxing is famous in the Dutch Netherlands. There's Thailand, Australia, Japan, England, of course, Germany, Switzerland, the Swiss, Brazil, Russia, and of course in Canada too. There's a lot of kickboxers in Canada. Like Mark Harmonic, who fought in the UFC. He was a Canadian kickboxing champion. Peter Sugarfoot Cunningham from Calgary, Alberta, Canada. He was a kickboxing champion. Yeah, and and right now you got Gabriel Varga and Joseph Antolini who both fight in Glory, and of course George St. Pierre's coach, or Troy Star Jim. He was a great kickboxer before he retired and became he never became a champion or anything, but he he took over the reins as being the leader of the gym, the coach over at TriStar. But he was a great kickboxing champion. He was a real badass.
Nice. Yeah, well, I mean, especially if you're from some of these other countries, I would guess that would be the way to actually come into the UFC or to MMA or something like that.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
It's the kickboxing way,
Yeah, exactly. So if I've been thinking about getting back into martial arts too, like mixed martial arts, kickboxing. Along with you. Maybe who knows? Maybe one day you and I could fight each other.
It would be interesting to watch. Yes.
Well, I mean, I do outweigh
Not
you.
that we couldn't watch, but
Yeah, well, I do outweigh you. I mean, of course, but you have more experience than me, so I think it'd be a little even fight.
Yeah, exactly. I was thinking that too. I've definitely got some of the techniques down to help against them. You don't want me doing a shoulder slam right now.
Oh yeah. So we're gonna end the show right there. So go to youtube.com/serpentscribe7. Subscribe to the show. Comment. Tell us what you think about the show and stuff. And we're gonna be doing, maybe we'll do the show next week, maybe.
Yeah,
whatever.
I have to keep you posted on that.
Yeah, keep you posted. And until then, this is Matthew Burris along with Gabe Shamus. And
Beantown to your town.
Beantown to your town. This is the Beantown Beatdown, and Bios con Dios.